Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Sanhedrin. We are up to Perek Zayin, Mishnah Yud. Today's Mishnah Yud should be Le'ilu Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana Ranbai, Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov, Chana ben Miriam, Sason ben Rain, Yoshua ben Shifra, Menuchatam beGan Eden, Amen. And Avdi ben Chaim Nechaim, with the Refuah Shelemav, Daniel Shalom ben Rosa, V'tor Shach Chulei Israel, and Achlama Merav, Binyamin, Or Tzion Chai ben Dvorah. The Mishnah discusses the next sin listed in Mishnah 4 that carries the punishment of execution by stoning. Hamesit, someone who persuades another to worship an idol. Even if the person to whom he spoke did not actually worship the idol, the persuader is liable to execution, as the Rambam writes in the Chot Avodat Kochavim, chapter 5, Halacha 1. Ze hediot, a mesita hediot. This refers to a regular person, not a prophet, who persuades one regular person, not a town of people. Only in that case is the punishment stoning. But if a prophet persuades a regular person, meaning one person says to another, I prophesy in the name of God that a certain idol should be worshipped, or a regular person persuades a town, meaning at least two residents of the town succeeded in persuading all or most of its other residents to worship idols. This is the case of Ir Nidachat, a corrupted town, which is discussed in chapter 10, Mishnayot 4 through 6. Now, in these two rulings, the Mishnah follows the opinion of the Tana Rabbi Shimon. According to the sages, however, a prophet and those who persuade the residents of a town are also punished with stoning. Mishnah 4, which includes one who corrupts a town among those punished with stoning, follows the view of the sages, as the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, page 89b. So again, someone who persuades another to worship an idol, this refers to a regular person, not a prophet, who persuades one regular person, not a town of people. Only in that case is the punishment stoning. But if a prophet persuades a regular person, or a regular person persuades a town, his punishment is strangling rather than stoning. Again, this is the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. An example of how one might start persuading another to worship an idol. Amarlo, he says to him, Yesh yira b'makom ploni, there is a God in a certain place. Kach ochelet, kach shota, kach metiva, kach meri'ah. This is what it eats, this is what it drinks, this is how it rewards those who worship it, and this is how it punishes those who do not worship it. He would not be liable to execution because of these words alone. Rather, he must suggest worshiping the idol, as the Mishnah states below. The Mishnah here is just giving an example of how a persuader would start drawing a person into idol worship. The Mishnah presents a stringent law that applies only to the sin. Kol chayaveh mitot shebatorah en machminin alehem. In all the cases in the Torah of people who are liable to execution, we do not hide witnesses to catch them in the act, chutz mizo, except for this one, to catch someone persuading another to worship idols. We do hide witnesses. Now, a sinner is not punished with execution or lashes unless he was warned immediately before he committed the sin that he will be punished in court. The sinner has to see the witnesses when the warning is given. If the witnesses are hidden and someone else gives the warning, he would assume that he is not being watched by witnesses, and therefore he will not be found guilty in court. The warning in that case is invalid because it is unlikely to deter him from sinning. However, the sin of persuading someone to worship an idol does not require warning at all. Even if the persuader was not warned beforehand, the court can execute him. The sin of persuasion is treated strictly in this and other ways because the Torah in Dvarim chapter 13 verse 9 states, you shall not have pity or cover up for him. Since no warning is needed, there is no need for him to see the witnesses, and therefore they may be hidden. The Mishnah teaches when we hide witnesses and when we do not. Amar lishnaim ve'enedav. If he said to two people that they should worship an idol and they are fit to be his witnesses, meaning they are not relatives or otherwise disqualified to be witnesses, there is no need to hide witnesses because these two will testify against him. They only have to bring him to court where the judges can try his case and stone him based on their testimony. Although the witnesses did not worship the idol, he is liable for having tried to persuade them to do so. Amar le'echad, if he said it to one person, since that person cannot testify against him alone because two witnesses are required, we trick him into saying it in front of two witnesses as follows. That person says to him, I have friends who would like to do this. It is permitted to deceive him because of the verse that we quoted earlier from Dvarim chapter 13 verse 19. You shall not have pity or cover up for him. So he says, I have friends who would like to do this. If the persuader then goes and tells that person's friends about the idol, he has sinned before two witnesses and they can testify against him. However, if he was clever and says that he cannot speak about it in front of them because he is afraid that they will testify against him in court, we hide witnesses behind the fence in a certain place. The hidden witnesses must be able to see and hear him. Now, we cannot hide just one witness and have the person who is being persuaded as a second witness, because the law requires that the two witnesses be able to see each other when they watch a sin being done. The only option, therefore, is to hide at least two people behind the fence. The person to whom he was speaking then brings the persuader to that place, and says to him there, tell me privately what you said to me before. He tricks the persuader by telling him that they are in a private place where no one else is present, so that the persuader will not be afraid to speak freely. If the persuader tells him what he told him before, he should respond to him, how can we leave our God in heaven and go and worship wood and stone? Although we do not need to give him a regular warning. Like we mentioned earlier, we must say something to him that stands in the place of a warning and give him a chance to change his mind. And this is also true in the previous cases where he tried to persuade two people. They too should answer him in this way. If he takes back his words and agrees that they should not worship the idol, that is fine, and he is not executed. The same applies where he did not take back his words but merely remained silent. Since he did not commit the sin of persuasion after he was quote-unquote warned, he is not liable to execution. But if he said, it is our obligation to worship the idol, or it is good for us to worship the idol, the witnesses standing behind the fence bring him to court, where the judges can try his case and stone him based on their testimony. And the Mishnah gives examples of what a persuader must say in order to be liable to a death penalty. Someone says, I will worship the idol and you should do so after me. By saying that he will also worship the idol, the persuader makes the deed more attractive to the other person. The Mishnah teaches that even if he did not say, let us worship together, rather he suggests that they worship it separately, I will worship and you should do so after me, he is still liable to a death penalty. Or I will go and worship the idol and you should do so after me. In this case where he says, I will go and worship the idol, is obviously in a different place. Therefore, it could have been thought that he should not be punished because he might change his mind on the way to the idol. The Mishnah teaches that even this statement is enough to make him liable. Or let us go together and worship the idol. When he says that he will go with the other person, he implies that if they decide not to go, he will not go either. The Mishnah teaches that he is nevertheless liable. Azabech elech v'azabech nelech unzabech. Or I will slaughter an offering for the idol's sake and you should do so after me. Or I will go and slaughter an offering and you should do so after me. Or let us go and slaughter an offering. Aktir elech v'aktir nelech v'naktir. Or I will burn an offering or incense for the idol's sake and you should do so after me. Or I will go and burn an offering or incense and you should do so after me. Or let us go and burn an offering or incense. Anasech elech v'anasech nelech u'nasech. Or I will pour wine for the idol's sake and you should do so after me. Or I will go and pour wine and you should do so after me. Or let us go and pour wine. Ishtachaveh elech v'ishtachaveh nelech v'nishtachaveh. Or I will bow to the idol and you should do so after me. Or I will go and bow and you should do so after me. Or let us go and bow. All these are expressions of persuasion for which a speaker can be put to death. The first group of statements, I will worship, etc., refers to worshiping the idol in its usual way. The next four groups of statements, which concern slaughtering, burning, pouring, and bowing, refer to acts of worship that are unusual for that idol, but which still carry the death penalty as taught in Mishnah 6. Since someone who does any of these four acts is liable, someone who tries to persuade another person to do them is also liable. The next sin listed in Mishnah 4, Hamediach, someone who corrupts the people of a town by persuading them to worship idols. This is someone who says, let us go and worship a certain idol. Although a person who persuades an individual is liable even for suggesting that they will act separately, I will worship the idol and you should do so after me, like we learned earlier. A person who corrupts a town's residents is not liable unless he says that they should act together, let us worship the idol. The laws of one who persuades all or most of a town's residents are generally different from the laws of one who persuades individuals. This is in chapter 10, Mishnah 4. And that is then of Mishnah Yud. Mishnah Yud Aleph teaches about the next sin listed in Mishnah 4, Hamchashef, someone who performs magic. Ha'oseh ma'aseh chayav, one who makes something happen through magic is liable to execution. V'lo ochez et ha'einayim, but not one who makes it merely appear as though something had happened. Literally, one who seizes the eyes. Rabbi Akiva Omer Mishum Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Akiva states the following in the name of Rabbi Yoshua: Shnaim loktin kishuin. If two people use magic to gather cucumbers to one spot in a field. Rabbi Akiva used this example because the Gemara in Sanhedrin, page 68a, relates that Rabbi Yoshua taught Rabbi Akiva the laws of magic by performing magic on a field of cucumbers. It is permitted to perform magic if one's intent is to teach the related laws. But Rabbi Akiva says in the name of Rabbi Yoshua, if two people use magic to gather cucumbers to one spot in a field, echad loket patur ve'echad loket chayav. It is possible that one of them gathers and is not liable to execution, and the other one gathers and is liable for execution. How so? Ha'oseh ma'aseh chayav. The one who makes it actually happen that the cucumbers are gathered is liable. Ha'ochez et ha'einayim patur. Whereas the one who makes it merely appear to have happened, but the cucumbers have not moved, is not liable. And that is the Nabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.